Welcome to the Left of Str8 Show, where we talk entertainment, music, books, foodies, and more each week with special guest interviews of interest to the LGBTQ community and our straight allies. Direct from the entertainment capital of Northeast Ohio. Your host, Scott Fullerton, chats with some of your favorite entertainers, celebrities, newsmakers, and behind-the-scenes people across the country and around the world who make it all happen. So sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and let's start talking.
Alrighty, hello everyone. We are back for another interview. I am your host, as always, Scott Fullerton. Today it's a blast from the past as I welcome back to the Left of Str8 Show, Mr. Brandon Carmody. Brandon is an old friend of the show from beautiful downtown Portland, Oregon, where some of you may remember I lived for 4 years before being banished here to Northeast Ohio. Brandon and I have been on parallel paths on our podcasting journey over the years. We've guested on each other's shows many times. He's a dedicated musician and an avid Star Trek fan, as you've seen. He has a huge interest in entertainment as a former actor himself. And of course, he's always been a strong advocate for our LGBTQ community. This month, Brandon is starting a virtual tour with his music and memories that'll take him throughout the summer and bring him back to a regular podcasting and social media circuit. So we're excited for that. I'm happy to catch up. So let's welcome back to Left of Str8 Show, Mr. Brandon Carmody. Brandon, how we doing, sir?
Hello, Scott. Thank you so much for having me back. And yes, everything was true. In fact, I will never forget, we were guests on someone else's show that I think they had just canceled something on like OutQ or Sirius XM had canceled something. And we had like an emergency broadcast where like all three of us, like we have to talk about the fact that there's now this lack of lane. And that was like 6 years ago.
It was about 6 years ago because I think I did 5 seasons and took 2 years off for COVID. So had to be at least 6.
Yeah.
But it was a wild time. We threw together like, it was some big thing going on. And like you said, the podcast wasn't working. So we all jumped on our little mics and got to it. But that was a fun time though. Kind of wild west of podcasting back then.
So I've been doing music before there was the internet, but I'm just going to lead you off here because I've been telling my coworkers have been asking me about this, Scott. So I'll just have to tell everyone the year. I graduated in 1996, and in the last 2 weeks of high school, some teacher was like, "Oh, by the way, everyone, there's going to be something new coming out next month called the internet, and it'll be part of your final." And we were like, "What the hell is that? That thing will never catch on." So you know how school is supposed to prepare you for life and to go out into the world? How could you have no mention of something that big? And then in the last 2 weeks, they're like, they came up with something, you might want to just look into it real quick. So I got no briefing on it, just the nudge out the door right as it came about to be. And the internet has been vital to our lives and survival ever since.
Well, let's just say that I graduated in 1987, and we still had pagers back in the day. So believe me, I know. It's crazy. Well, let's get into it. I want to give everyone a quick catch up. You did talk about your background a bit, but let everyone know what got you interested in music to begin with, performing on the keyboards behind the scenes, and of course in front of the camera when you did your acting. Talk about what got you your interest in all this stuff.
Sure. Well, so maybe I can do a little, screen show you some background. But the first known photograph of me and a piano was from 1979. So there, I raised your 1987, and I raised the stakes. So 1979, but I'm only 2 years old in this photo, which hopefully will be on the screen at the time I'm saying these words. So this is a Jamar piano, and I don't know if I could actually play the thing or not, but this photo is pretty convincing. But for me, it was 1986. I had a best friend. I was in the third grade and we were playing, and I saw that he had this beautiful kind of like ochre mahogany piano in his living room, and I just started tinkering around with it. And then his mom taught me a song called The Kangaroo Rooster, and that was the one and only formal piano lesson I've ever had in my life. But flash
That's
forward to
amazing.
1990, 33 years ago, our family moved from Washington here to Oregon. I was 13 years old, and I got myself my first Yamaha. Not nothing this grandiose. It was about yeah, right about here, but it was amazing. So think about it. The poppiness of the 1990s. You had your Michael Boltons, Michael Jackson was still going strong, that whole Mariah Carey era, right? So the
Right.
stuff I was writing initially was just so cheese pop and immigrant and very, but it was amazing to have the freedom to be able to write and record. But it was a few years before I started getting in front of live audiences, and I started getting away from the poppiness and really starting to develop something. But just a quick backstory. My father was a choir director at both a junior high and a high school in Southern Oregon in the late 70s and early 80s. So I was, in fact, the choir director's kid getting drug around on, state finalists and soloists and all these different things, including track meets. So I had a real indoctrination in music when I was a little kid because my dad was the choir director, man.
That's crazy. I love all that. And then what brought about the acting and the podcasting and all that?
So that's so funny that you mentioned 1987 because I have a great 1987 story about acting, Scott. I got cast to play Jesus in a church play in 1987. And so I think I don't know how, we don't have to go too far into this, but there's this whole bit where the three guys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, are burning in the furnace or whatever. And Jesus kind of comes in and basically like saves them from the burning furnace. But it's a musical, you see. So it's literally like almost like Twin Peaks with like the sunglasses and people are walking around doing weird coffee like things. And so when I came out on stage as Jesus in 1987, I had sunglasses on and I just literally got right up on that stage and I just electrified them, man. It was like, so I've been an entertainer since the late 1980s going into the 90s. So I did my first movie role as an extra in 1990 with Shelley Long from Cheers fame and Corbin Burnson in a stupid movie called Frozen Assets. I highly encourage people to look up what Ebert and Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel thought of it. They basically felt like they were slaves, like they'd been held to their seats in some level of unearthly punishment to watch the thing. But it was actually the second time someone in Hollywood decided to pair up Shelley Long and Corbin Burnson in a movie. The first time was called Hello Again, which was actually a superior film. But it was fun, man. It was fun. I did my first movie at 13. I'm sitting a few chairs away from Diane Chambers from Cheers fame, and the nostalgia, the appeal, everything just clicked with me. How cool it is to be there around all the cameras and the people, and then eventually see yourself on the big screen.
Sure, of course. And then talk about your journey to podcasting. Like we said, we started around the same time. What was your original goals for your show? What made it kind of fun for you to do?
I'll answer that with a non-denial denial. It wasn't my idea at all. I got an invite from a Portland drag queen named Bolivia Carmichael. It's just an email invite. I think it was a mass emailer. It was like, look, the Q Center in Portland has partnered up with a radio station that's housed inside the Q Center, and they're going to be doing all LGBTQ programming starting in January 2015. Okay, does that put a date on it? So January 2015. And I went down there and I met with the people. Scott, they had a booklet of FCC rules about yay thick because this was not a podcast. They had an actual FM radio tower they were going to be broadcasting over. So it was like half of the training was like, I just want to know how to run the equipment and how to do the show. And they're like, you have to know the FCC rules too, dude. It's like, well, what? So it was just kind of like going to class, but it was just so cool. They did indeed make a radio station inside Portland's Q Center and then make it a safe space. And we did some shows, and I basically ended up doing a daily news segment. In today's news, like okay, that's one way to get your start.
Right,
But
exactly.
but it wasn't until we got booted off of there. That's right, you heard the real scoop here. Me and my friend Brian went in for a 2 a.m. session, and we did sort of a Howard Stern sort of unplugged, no filter on the language type show. And when they heard it, well, let's just say we went to log into everything and all the passwords were changed. It was like Does that
Oops.
mean we're out? And then we got an email that was like, you're locked out. Security has been instructed not to let you into the building. Like, security's been told not to let us
That's
into the
funny.
building. Are you kidding me? So we started a podcast. And then I'm sure that I met you somewhere around that year, either 2015 or
Yeah.
2017, like just as I was getting started. So even though I've been a musician for over 30 years, the podcasting has just been since 2015, on and off.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, I started the week after marriage equality became the law of the land in June of
Hmm.
2015. So that was my very first show, and I think we got to know each other pretty quickly after that because I was listening to podcasts like crazy. I think I'd listened to yours, um, and it was a fun animal. We were kind of you and I would tackle a lot of the same subjects. We're both interested in entertainment. We're both interested in politics. I mean, I've kind of changed now because politics have gotten so much more divisive since when we started 6 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, I try to keep it to the LGBTQ issues if I can, because there's so much other stuff that just I don't even like to talk about in politics anymore. It's just crazy. Um, it's hard to keep up. I keep in touch with my good friends about politics, but it's just I don't even like talk about it online anymore. Do you?
So I have Twitter, and I am a blue check mark, of which I'm proud of my new blue check mark because I've been trying to get a check mark for like 15 years, but apparently now it's uncool. Now it's, oh, you sold out to the establishment, whereas the rest of them are trying. It's like you can't win. I've wanted a check mark for so long, and now that I have it, there's people that shout me down every day for having it. It's like this is ridiculous. So I try to just post entertainment on there and avoid the politics.
Right. Yeah, same thing. I talked about the blue check mark on. I do a show called Rainbow Rundown on Mondays, and I bought my blue check mark when it
Hmm.
first became available because supposedly it would give you a lot of perks, right? It was supposed to give you longer messages, was supposed to get you seen more. And now we've had all this controversy around it. And it's not worth having anymore. So mine runs out when the next payment runs out. Mine is
Okay.
not being renewed anymore because it become a controversial thing. And I did it not to show that I am anybody. It was basically for what they offered with it, right? Because they gave you some good perks for it. But now I think the downside of it doesn't even make the perks worth it. So that's a whole story in and of itself, right?
I have a business and practical reason that I'm keeping the paid blue check mark, and it is this. You can only get your 10 minutes of video as a paid subscriber, and that's what I'm doing. I'm making videos right. In fact, to be honest with you, Scott, I struggle to keep them under 10 minutes. I've really had to make some really creative edits that are like 9 minutes, 50 set. It's like, wow, we just made the tail end. But on Instagram and everything else, you can get your free 10 minutes of video. Twitter is, yeah.
I hear you. I'm learning. I mean, I've had the face for radio for my first 5 years. Season 6 is the first time I'm trying video, and it's a huge learning curve. I mean, I'm into a role now for the last 4 weeks. Been on the air, but I did my first interview for this season the last week of January, and it just aired last week because I
I
didn't.
see.
My sync was off on my sound. I didn't understand what I was doing, and luckily, my interviewee was so kind and so nice that he let me take forever to learn how to do it. But it's interesting. But like you said, you got the platforms are all so different. You have 10 minutes if you're verified. You have 60 seconds if you're not. You have a minute and a half for an Instagram reel. It's just too confusing for me. It's a learning curve.
And let's just the elephant in the room. Let's just address the elephant in the room. I didn't get famous by getting a check mark in none of the platforms. So I'm not sure how many. So here's the thing. I'm going to go back. So one of my role models, Scott, has been the great artist Tori Amos, who, by the way, just wrapped up her European tour that she's coming to the US. So 30 years ago, when she did her breakout album, Little Earthquakes, she basically decided she was going to write the songs that she wanted to write and go and play them. And if anyone comes to listen, great. But she had like no or little expectations, right? That's kind of where I'm at right now. Like I'm gonna bring my A game and I'm gonna do this show and do the tour and do social media, but I don't expect to become Tyler Oakley or Troy Sivan or you know?
That's the only attitude we can have. Like I said, I feel the exact same way. I'm not doing it for the likes and the clicks. I'm doing it because I genuinely enjoy the people I talk with. You genuinely enjoy making music and sharing it with others. I think that's the goal in and of itself. So everything else is nice, but that's not what we do it for. So I agree 100% on that. Well said. I do want to go into Star Trek for a bit. I mean, we talked about that in the intro. You are a huge fan of Star Trek. I have to admit, you are an OG. I'm not a fan until Discovery and all the streaming shows. I enjoyed them. I watched the movies. I thought they were fun, but I was never what I would call a super fan. I knew enough about it, but I've really got into the Discoveries, the Picards, the Strange New Worlds. Let's talk about that for a bit. As an OG guy, where do you think the franchise has gone? Are you enjoying it as much as I am?
I am, and I'm glad we're talking about this. So I am. I'm just going to put in a quick plug. I have a weekly segment called the Captain's Blog that I'm going to be putting out, Scott. Just like there were 10 episodes of Picard, we've already recorded 10 episodes of the Captain's Blog. It's already in the can. Okay, so you're gonna have to
Nice.
tune every week to see what we have to say about Star Trek and about Picard. But I'm going to give you a little peek behind the curtain right now. First of all, about 3.5 years ago, they had a convention in Las Vegas, and I think Alex Kurtzman was out there. He's like, "We'd like to tell everyone about the next Star Trek show." And then the shuttle bay doors open at this Las Vegas convention, and Patrick Stewart walked out, and this
Oh
crowd
my
just
God.
leapt to their feet, right? Just leapt to their feet, like
Right.
Jean-Luc Picard. And he was like, "That's right, Jean-Luc is back." And I was thrilled and excited. But then when the show started coming out, I was like, "Oh." So I don't know how many tweets you want to go back through and dig through the archive, but there were several weeks where I'm like, damn it, they've done it to us again. These hack writers and the plot doesn't make any sense. So I had a complicated relationship with those first two seasons of Picard, not this third season. This third season, I think they threw out all the past rule books. They're like, what do the fans want? What do legacy Star Trek fans want? What would TNG fans want? And Terry Matalas, who worked on Voyager, by the way, Terry Matalas, the showrunner,
Right.
knows Jerry Ryan because they worked together on Voyager. So he has a 20-year history with Jerry Ryan. So it's
Right.
great that they brought her along. Um, they basically decided to do a TNG reunion, but not make it just a nostalgic, let's get them all back together just because they have an important role in the story. And
Right.
so, just basically, my take on season three is that it takes place in Starfleet, it takes place on starships. The story is emblematic of everything that embodies Star Trek. The stakes are high, and it's a chance for them all to get back together. I thought it is imperfect, but it was exciting and emotional at many times. I think it was the best season of Picard, and absolutely the swan song that the TNG cast deserved, if you want my straight opinion. That was their final swan song that they've dated for 20 years.
That's what I'm hearing. I mean, like I said, I came to it late, so I came from Discovery and Picard and Strange New World, so I don't remember too much of TNG. So there wasn't anything to live up to for me for Picard. So I was able to enjoy all three seasons and kind of see the different because I liked seeing the Borg. That was one of the big episodes back
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
day, and that had some strong implications through the first couple seasons. But what would you say was your most exciting cameo in season three? Because they brought a little bit of everybody in.
Okay, well, if spoilers are fair game, Scott, I'm just going to say Michelle Forbes, Michelle Forbes, Michelle Forbes. So just a little, God, this is the OG knowledge that I have. I keep writing all these posts on Facebook, by the way, memes, and I always write, I have this knowledge, and I point the little hand finger. When it comes to TNG, I have that knowledge. The second to last episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, literally the second to the finale, is called Preemptive Strike. And so Ensign Ro Laren had been in only the last two seasons of TNG, and she's only in like 6 or 7 episodes. They sent her away for a while to get some advanced training from Starfleet Tactical. So in the second to last episode, an admiral from Starfleet shows up and wants to recruit Ro Laren for a secret mission to go infiltrate the enemy. You're going to go infiltrate the Maquis, and you're going to set them on a trap. We're going to ambush them the moment their ships pass through. And she ends up betraying Jean-Luc Picard, and literally she beams away, and it's like such a bummer ending. It's like she's a traitor after all they've done for her and after all old Johnny did for her. So that was sort of a sequel in the making, more than 30 years. So I thought that it was incredible that they completed that story arc from 1994's preemptive strike by bringing Ro Laren back, and her and Michelle Forbes and Patrick Stewart just lit up the screen in this episode. It's called Imposters. I believe it's episode 5 of season Picard, and she takes one for the team in order to save them. Michelle Forbes has been incredible forever. She was also on 24.
That's great. I mean, I did see a lot of hubbub when she was on. I remembered the name, the Maquis, from TNG. I didn't remember too much of her storyline, but it was a big deal when she came. I remember seeing all the buzz the next day. Discovery is now in its 5th and final season coming up. We found out it's going to be the final season. What have you thought of that? That was an interesting premise with the warp capability of the mycelium network there. They're able to kind of jump through everything. What did you think of that premise?
Well, I hate to, oh my gosh, where's that? I hate to disappoint, but I have to give the same answer that Donald Trump gave in his deposition, which I have to take the 5th on Discovery. So I don't want to do the whole same answer,
I hear you.
but I, I don't have anything positive to say about Discovery, so I choose to take the 5th.
I hear you. All right. I'm having lighting issues. Wow. Hello, everyone. Let's see how many colors Scott can change in one little episode here. Very good. Like, I got Discovery because, of course, huge Wilson Cruz fan, huge Anthony Rapp fan. So just to have a gay couple with those two actors portraying it, I didn't care about all the rest, to be honest. But I've enjoyed the series, so I'm excited about that. And I did get to meet Anson Mount and Ethan Peck from Strange New Worlds. I was at a fan fest in Cleveland this past February. Got to do a short little interview with each of them that I'm holding till 2nd season. It's an interesting time. I mean, Pike has been talked about forever. Of course, Spock is an OG, and it's a different story take on them. What do you think of Strange New Worlds? Any other answer you can give besides another 5th?
I am paying for a Paramount subscription. But how do I say they got us? Like that scene in Ghostbusters, we got one. Like you have to have the subscription to watch Picard, so that's why I have my subscription. My sister has been using it to watch all the shows. She's watching Strange New Worlds. Scott, I got about 3 episodes in, and then I got busy. So I will say this: I didn't hate it, but God, I'm going to sound like such a OG Star Trek fan versus like New Trek. I was really, really, really annoyed at the upbeat and happy tone of Strange New Worlds because Picard is so serious and there's violence and there's swearing and all. So I was just annoyed at the sort of like weekly wrap up, and the happy-go-lucky part of me was annoyed by it. So I will say though that I was enjoying it. I was liking it. I think that Anson Mount is a very cool Captain Pike because I've seen like 4 episodes of Discovery, and one of the ones was the one where he took a Klingon crystal and he had a vision of his future, and I thought he played that scene beautifully. So we already know that there's a story arc for Captain Pike of where it's going to end if they follow that through. So I think Strange New Worlds is cool. The new season comes out in June. I guess I'll just throw one other thing out there. I do want them to greenlight what Terry Matalas has been saying publicly for the last month and a half he wants to do, which is called Star Trek Legacy. And I don't think they're putting it out there because there is a green light. There isn't a green light. They're putting it out there because they want fan reaction. They want clicks. They want to see how many people liked Star Trek Picard and how much demand there is to see 7 of 9 in the captain's chair. And I'm telling you, episode 9 got like 310 million views. So I'm fully confident that demand is there. And I'm slightly annoyed that they won't just greenlight the new show, personally. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
The casting was good for Picard. I got to tell you, my 84-year-old mother watched it with me, all because of Ed Spielers from Downton Abbey. So that's a
fantastic actor. I'd never seen him before. Same thing with Todd Stashwick, who played Captain Shaw. Had never seen him before. So amazing new cast and characters.
Let's talk about getting things up and running again. You're getting ready to launch on this tour. I mean, I had a very tough time starting up again after the pandemic. I took 2 years off. I planned on taking maybe a year and 2 months off, and it took me 10 more months just to get myself back to it because it's a tough thing. I mean, you know, we slog through it. There's a lot of pre-prep work that needs to be done to arrange interviews and get everything done. So it's been interesting for the 4 weeks here. What kind of has got it in your craw to be able to start this again? What makes this exciting to you again to restart this whole journey?
Well, so there's some personal and emotional reasons. First of all, this week specifically is going to be the 3 year anniversary of when we lost our mom. Our mom actually had passed away on May 3rd. I don't know when your show's coming out, but between the actual anniversary of when we lost mom and Mother's Day coming up, this is, we've got all the feels right now. But
Right.
I actually launched my tour in 2020 on, or it was 2021, it was the next year on the anniversary of mom's passing. And I started out strong. And I always take bets against it. I'm joking with everyone, like, how long do you think I'll make? And we always joke 2 weeks, but it's a hard thing. Scott, I sat down and I looked at the schedule. I'm like, between May 1st and September 5th, no problem. And then I was like, 4 weeks in April, 5 weeks. And by the time I got through to it, I'm like, I'm practically doing Madonna's tour, but without the brassiere and without the dancers. Like, right? Like, it's a lot of shows. It's like 40 or 50 shows. So
Right.
in my mind, no problem, easy, but it's hard work. Um, here's a thought. I've heard this before, and you're welcome to share, but I've heard that if you disappear from social media, you stop doing posts, you stop doing video, you might be forgotten about, or you might become irrelevant, or they might just stamp it and be like, well, he's retired, he's done. You have to keep doing the thing in order to be seen and be remembered. It's reciprocal. Like, you have to keep doing the thing. And that's part of what burned out Tyler Oakley. I saw Tyler Oakley when he made an announcement video that he was taking a break. He's like, you guys, I've been doing videos for 12 years straight. It's beyond a full-time job. I need a flipping break. And it was like, oh yeah, doing videos every day for like 10 years. Well, like, that is a full-time commitment. So, but here's the thing. If you're a musician, you're supposed to be gigging and you're supposed to be out there in the public field. I'm cheating right now. This is a virtual concert tour that I'm taping from the comforts of my home because I don't actually have a gig. Therefore, I'm creating the gig, I'm creating the space, and I'm creating the conditions. I have editorial control over the end product. There's no bad sound man giving me a bad sound mix. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I played clubs before where you're like, does that guy have no hearing? Like, what's going on?
Right.
It
Yeah,
happens.
I I hear you. I mean, it's very true. I think that it is a slog. It's a lot of work to get it done. I do all my stuff is about other people. I talk about other people, foodies, entertainers, because I don't have any talents of my own. Do you find it a little different to this? I mean, you did all that before in your old shows. Is it a little easier, at least, since it's kind of all on you now? You get to make your own schedule. You don't have to invite all the guests on. You have to do all this other stuff. Does that give you a little bit more peace of mind?
No, because there are guests and there is a heavy schedule. You'll see. So it's funny that you were saying that you're working on some stuff since January that just came out. I have videos for this tour that were taped in January that are going to be coming out this week. And so just a little peek behind the curtain. There are people like, when can we see it? When can we see it? It was taped back in January. Like, I know it was taped in January. Sorry. But so here's the thing. I'm making a few of these in advance. I had the epiphany, the idea to do it like a TV show. And what would you do with a TV show? You write out your scripts, episode to episode. So I'm already pre-planning segments and editing ahead multiple weeks. You'll
Yeah,
see. It's 3 days a week. I'll be on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
very cool. And this tour is going to take place May 1st to September 5th, right?
That's right. And that's my birthday. My I'll be 29 again this year, Scott. How about you?
I hear that. I don't do birthdays anymore. I do
Right.
anniversaries of my 29th birthday. So I'm into the anniversary stage. So I hear you. Very, very cool. Now, you're going to be, like you said, you are adding a lot of things to it. You're going to do a lot of clips from previous things that you've done and throughout that. How's been that walking down memory lane like that? Is it nostalgic? Is it exciting? Is it like exhausting? What are you finding with all this stuff you're unearthing?
I guess I look at it this way. So I mean, I know the history, but maybe not everyone does, and that's part of what I want to share. So I didn't start out as a solo artist. So after high school in 1997, the first thing I did was I started forming a band, and I got a guitarist and we made an album. And then when we went on tour for that album in, are you ready for this? January 1998. January 98 is when I launched my first tour. So then there were three of us. And basically, what happened was I was doing the lead vocals at that point. You know that movie Star Trek Insurrection? Well, we had a mini insurrection where I got sat down and everyone was like, "Look, you got to take one for the team." I'm like, what are we saying here? What are we talking about? They're like, you need to recuse yourself from the lead vocal position in the band so that you can bring in a front man. And then you can kick back on the keyboard. You can still be band leader, you write the songs, shadow write, whatever, but someone else is going to be the lead vocalist. I'm like, that's ridiculous. And they're like, all in favor, aye, the motion's carried. It was like,
Oh
what,
man.
my own band, just insurrection, like me out of the lead vocals after only 2 months of that tour. So by May of 1998, we had a lead vocalist. And let me tell you, Scott, when radio stations start calling you, they're like, hey, we just got your single. Would you like to come on and do something live on the air? It's like, oh, Jesus God, there was something to what they were saying. These guys were smart. Like they intuitively knew something. Like it'll get you on the radio. It'll get CDs selling. It'll get a single out there, whatever. Like they knew the roadmap to what it takes for a band to succeed.
Right.
It's just really a difficult thing when you're the writer or the creator and you want to sing your own songs. But hey, Carla Bonoff sold all of her songs to Linda Ronstadt and collected the royalty check. So I wouldn't be the first. So
There you go. Well said. Well said. All right. Well, why don't you? We're going to play one clip during the interview here, but why don't you give everyone a little tease of some of the music here? Do you mind playing a little something for us now?
yes. So I have some songs that are only 10 years old, and I have some songs that fit into the more like 20 plus year range. Land of Winter was the title track from my 2012 album, Land of Winter. This is Land of Winter by Brandon Carmody. You're watching Left of Str8 Radio.
There you go. A jam session on the Left of Str8 Show by Mr. Brandon Carmody himself. Thank you, sir. That was
You're welcome.
very, very cool.
So that's what the tour will be like. There's no band, there's no singer, there's no drums. It's me flowing with music that I've been creating over 25 years.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations to you, Brandon. I think it's going to be a great time. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Let everyone know where they can find your channel at, where they can stream all this at, and where they can find you on social media.
BrandonCarmody.com would be the easiest to find, but do all the socials, Twitter, TikTok, the Instagram, and Facebook. Look for Brandon Carmody on all. And yeah, again, Scott, I want to be playing my craft. That's the most important thing for a musician to do, is to be playing and to be practicing and having a good time. I have 33 years worth of history, video, and embarrassing clips to share with people. It's going to be good times for sure.
I bet. And you have the talent to back it up, my friend. So congratulations. Very good to talk to you again. You have to come back real soon, kind of mid-tour. Let us know how things are going.
Thanks for having me.
All right, stay on the line for me. Guys, that was Brandon Carmody. You're listening to the Left of Str8 Show right here on the Left of Str8 Radio Network. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to the Left of Str8 Show. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast distributor, and please give us a 5-star rating so more listeners can find us. You can follow us on social media, and be sure to check out our website, www.leftofstraightradio.com, for contests and other news and information. See you next week.